For those of you just joining us, happy Chuseok, everyone. So glad you could be here for this first live event of the Chuseok Festival. We are very excited to have Edwin Bayone III, executive chef at Um.Ma restaurant in SF, to do a cooking demo from Seoul with Seoul, Um.Ma's fried chicken. As you may know, Korean fried chicken, or KFC, is all the rage these days. This version incorporates American Southerner Seoul style flavors with Korean seasonings. A little bit about Edwin. He's a California native, born in Stockton, raised in Sacramento, began his career working at traditional French, Italian, New American, and Creole Seoul restaurants in Sacramento. Prior to Um.Ma, he also trained in the kitchens of iconic Michelin star SF restaurants Saison, Angler, and Wayfarer Tavern. Under his leadership, Um.Ma SF was awarded Best New Restaurant in America by Thrillist. By the way, Um.Ma is the Korean word for mom, and this restaurant is definitely an homage to Korean moms' home cooking. Now for some housekeeping and logistics. We are using Zoom's webinar mode, which means that your video and audio are turned off. However, we welcome your questions, so please type them into the Q&A box on your screen. We will review and share the questions with Edwin as we go along. We will not be monitoring the chat box during the demonstration, so feel free to say hello amongst yourselves at the beginning. But again, any questions you have for Edwin should be typed into the Q&A box, not the chat box. Thank you again for joining us, and enjoy the program.
Find in the stores. Now, depending on how fancy you want to get, feel free to go ahead and use your knife. And you just want to slice them in about a quarter diameter, something thin, just like this. Or if you're looking for speed and you're going to be feeding a lot of people, little mandolin is always going to be one of your best bets there. So I'm going to be using this. And for this recipe, we're going to be using 4 cucumbers, just want to slice those real thin. The mandolin helps keep everything very consistent. And you can see how that just makes so much, it shortens your time up there. All right, that's going to be enough for us. I'm going to take those cucumbers and put those off to the side here. Now we're going to start our pickle liquid. For the pickle liquid, we're going to be using 1,000 grams of water. And this is just tap water, something very just room temperature. There we go. A little bit of vinegar, 500 grams of vinegar. So what I like to use is about a half of the water, just so you still get the acidity. And the vinegar also helps preserve the crunch of the vegetables. Just going to turn the stove on, bring that up to a boil. Now, inside of our pickle liquid, we want to season everything. So we're going to use 200 grams of sugar and 50 grams of salt. That's roughly going to be about 3 tablespoons of sugar. And just 1 tablespoon of salt. Now, these are just baseline recipes. feel free if you would like to change them around a little bit, or if you want to add more sweetness or more salinity, feel free to do that. Now, into this recipe, we're going to add 5 cloves of garlic. Now, with my garlic, I prefer to take the little brown tips off of the garlic there. Now, that's just something that is a personal preference. Just want to get in there and slice them nice and thin. This is going to make our pickle liquid very aromatic. And definitely give a little complementary flavor profile to the cucumbers. Now, the last aromatic component that we're going to add is going to be 30 grams of peeled ginger. Now, here's a cool tip that I've learned when it comes to peeling ginger. I like to use a spoon. I like to use a spoon here instead of using the regular vegetable peeler. Now, with peeling with a spoon, it just takes off just enough of the skin. Now, there were times back when I was still like doing my apprenticeship in culinary school where I was peeling it with a vegetable peeler. And I remember my chefs coming and just, those were in the days where it was okay to be a little bit aggressive in the kitchen and getting my hands slapped. Like, why are you wasting so much vegetables? There we go. So everything is nice and peeled there. And it's often important just to keep a nice little wet towel on the corner of your station, just so you can constantly keep your station clean. I'm going to be adding this to the pot now. And we're just going to set that aside and let that all come to a boil. Now, some of you might be kind of curious as to how I became the chef of Um.Ma, or how I got interested in cooking Korean food. Well, I actually got my career started a few years ago. When I was just working in a kitchen, I had a bunch of friends who were working here in the city and they were on their visa. And I kind of got my taste there after culinary school, or sorry, after work, we would actually go and hang out. And I began drinking soju and learning about jjigae, learning about sundabus and different things. And it really piqued my interest. And myself liking spicy foods, I kind of fell in love with it. Then I was looking through Craigslist, of course, because everyone here in the city goes through Craigslist to kind of find their jobs or their next moves. If you're not looking for one that is a little more from your friends, you know, kind of like a, so I was looking on Craigslist and I saw an ad and the ad said new soul food restaurant coming to the city. And I said, oh, that sounds perfect, thinking that soul food from the South, something that I wanted to do, you know? And with that happening, I came and applied, and I realized that I had misread the article itself. It wasn't just soul food, it was soul food. So I said, okay, I believe I can do this. I was familiar with the flavor profiles at that point. So I began cooking for them, and the rest is history. I am now here. So now that we have our pickle liquid up to a boil, I'm going to go ahead and turn this down now. And we're just going to pour this directly over our pickles. Now this is going to be a hot pickle because I want to get these done a little bit faster than normal. And doing a hot pickle will also help preserve the crunch and the texture of it. I wish you guys could smell that. Give it a little taste here. Those are definitely pickles. All right. I like that a lot. So now we're just gonna put these over to the side and let those wilt just for a moment. All right. Now that we have that condiment set away, the next thing we're gonna make is our spicy chili oil. Now, with the spicy chili oil, this is something that's been adapted from the traditional Nashville hot recipe. And using the ingredients that I had nearby, I kind of adapted this recipe just to fit there. So in the pot here, I'm going to take 75 grams of chopped garlic. ,100 grams of gochugaru. So gochugaru is going to be a Korean chili flake here. Normally, if I could find Anaheim's or if I could find, I've used Chipotle's in the past. You can use Fresno's. There we go. I'm going to add 50 grams of our house-made gochujang. Taking now 50 grams of ground black pepper. And 100 grams of jalapenos. It's going to be roughly 2 jalapenos. What I do is just take the top off, split them right down the middle. And because I want that spice, I'm going to leave all the seeds intact here. To that mixture, I'm going to add grapeseed oil. And I like to use grapeseed oil because it has a higher smoke point to it. So you can get it nice and piping hot without it starting to scorch. All right. We're just going to take that and stir that down now. Now I'm starting this out at a high heat because I want that oil to really start to infuse all of those flavors. And once I see the bubbles start coming to the surface, I'm going to turn that down just to make sure that the garlic doesn't burn on the bottom.
Someone's asking why the measures of ingredients are metric.
So I personally like to use the metric system as opposed to the imperial system when I'm measuring things out, just so I can get a little more accurate recipe there. There's often times where the measuring cups could be a little bit off, or as my mom always says, everyone's hand is a little bit different, you know? So one measuring cup, 1 tablespoon to someone, it can be a heaping tablespoon, or it can be, you know, a scant tablespoon. So putting everything with the metric system, 500 grams is going to be 500 grams. So I'm just going to let that sit there. And look, you can see how everything here is really starting to come together. Perfect.
Medium, low, or high heat?
I'm starting everything, so you can come and take a look at this. I'm starting everything here at high heat. And now once the bubbles here, you can really start seeing those bubbles start coming up. That's when I'm going to turn everything down just a little bit. You want to almost at a simmer there. There we go. Oh, look at that. You can already see the oil start turning red from the gochujang and the gochujang. Oh, it's going to be great. All right. Clean my station up a little bit. Always, always trying to stay as clean as possible. Therefore, your loved ones at home don't have to clean up after you. Okay, so next we're going to move into the chicken fry. And that's going to be the dry batter. That's going to be what's going to coat the outside of the chicken here. So we're going to start off with 1 quart of AP flour. In fact, let me get a larger bowl here. So we're going to start off with 1 quart of all-purpose flour. Now that's just going to be the base for everything. The all-purpose flour definitely has a nice Maillard reaction when it starts to cook. You get that nice brown color that you're really looking for when you're frying chicken. Into that, I'm going to add 1 pint of cornstarch here. Now the cornstarch is going to give that nice heavy crunch that I'm looking for in the fried chicken. And last but not least, this is a secret ingredient. Now you don't have to use this, but it's something that I like to use just for a textural standpoint: potato flour or potato starch. I use 2 quarts of grapeseed oil. And now again, feel free, if you want to use this more as a condiment, like a tableside garlic oil or chili oil, feel free to do that, and you can lower down the amount of oil that you want to use. But me personally, I like to keep it at that 2 quart. I'm going to give this a quick little mix here. And you can see here how the garlic itself is kind of starting to fry. And go ahead and take those jalapenos there and just give them a little bit of a press there, just against the side, so you can start releasing all those oils that are inside. All right. Now coming back to our dry fry mix here, I'm just going to start folding everything together just to get an even mixture. Being careful not to get flour all over the place. All right. I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of salt. And I like to put the salt all over the place just as I'm mixing, so I don't put it directly into the center of the bowl. And kind of disperse just around. I'm going to do 2 tablespoons of black pepper. And again, just folding everything in, coming from the outside and turning it into the middle there. And you can kind of see how those pepper flakes are now evenly kind of distributed in there. It's a good sign there. All right. So we have that set, and we're going to set that aside as well.
While you're waiting, any other stories about the background?
Absolutely. So this picture here behind me, this was done by, the picture of Um.Ma here was done by a great muralist down in LA. His name is Tommy Lim. And he did that. In fact, this is his little sign there. If you guys want to follow Tommy. But here, this is a picture, kind of a hybrid picture of our chef, our executive chef there. His name is Chris O. And this is a picture of his mother's face that was kind of adapted into the mural himself. Now, Tommy and Chris got together, and Tommy actually freehanded this entire thing. So it was incredible just watching him just paint the entire wall white and then just come back here and kind of fill in with markers and different rulers. And it's incredible to have such an amazing portrait here. I always tell myself, like, it's an honor to have my art in a building where somebody else's art is also here to be seen. Such an incredible thing to see. So always good to have, always good. All right, and so now we have our chicken fry mix there. We're going to work on a chicken brine. Now, the chicken brine here, I use a buttermilk brine, and this is where some of the southern roots really start coming into play here. Using the buttermilk, that's going to give us that nice texture to it. The cultures that are in the buttermilk start to break down the protein in the chicken, and it just gives you an amazing juicy texture. So I'm going to use 4 cups. Of buttermilk, like so. And now this brine is going to be enough for 6 to 10 chicken thighs. And that's the part of the chicken that I prefer to use for the chicken sandwich. Feel free to use chicken breast if you would like. Using your favorite hot sauce, I'm going to use 4 tablespoons. And as you can see, there's chili in almost every element. We have our chili oil here, the black pepper that's going inside of the chicken fry, and now inside of the brine here. For the heat of the stove when cooking the chili oil, you'll want to do about medium for that here. So medium-high heat, and that's only so you don't burn the oils or burn the garlic that's inside of the oil there. Constantly stirring that. Make sure you're constantly stirring. There we go. That's going to be our chicken brine here. Now, lastly, we're going to start making our slaw. And again, this is another one of those blends where you get to see the Seoul side of things being mixed with the southern side of things. Well, I personally like to use, so when it comes to the hot sauce, it's a matter of preference. I like to use Crystal hot sauce or Louisiana Red Dot hot sauce. But there's anything. We've used Samjang in the past. I've tried using sambal. That's not more like a chili like paste style, and that's definitely amazing. We came across this one that is samyang, and that's like a new cool one that's on the market right now. It's very spicy, and for myself, I'm kind of keen on that one only because it has, I believe this one has 6,000 Scoville units. So if you're into like chili or anything, that's definitely going to be like up there as far as spice is concerned. So in the beginning of the slaw, just going to take my carrots here and get that peeled down nice.
Clarification, chicken brine, 1 cup of hot sauce, or is it 4 tablespoons?
4 tablespoons. We're going to be using 4 tablespoons of the hot sauce and 4 cups of buttermilk. 4 cups buttermilk, 4 tablespoons of hot sauce. All right. Now going back to one of my favorite tools here, the mandolin. We're just going to julienne the carrots here. This is my favorite friend whenever I'm making kimchi and I have to julienne the mu or the apples, the pears that we put inside. So doing that nice little strips there takes all the work out of it. So I'm going to add my carrots into there. I'm taking the red cabbage, just peeling the outer leaves off. Break that down in half. Just going to cut the core out of the middle. Just remove that little piece there. And we're going to julienne everything. We want everything to kind of be a consistent texture there. Consistent in size. Now for this batch, I use just 1 carrot, about 1/4 of the red cabbage there. going to take some green onions. Just a bunch or two. The green onions being added in there, it's going to reintroduce that because we're already using the kimchi. And the house kimchi we have here, we definitely use a lot of the green onions, mostly the bottoms of them, like the white stem part. But this introduces the floral notes from it and also gives us a nice color contrast. And now for the kimchi. Oh my goodness, check that out. Such a beauty. Just want to use a quarter of that, and that might even be too much. Whatever I don't use, I'll have for dinner tonight. Just gonna start at the top there. And since I want that kimchi to be the prominent flavor in our relish here, I'm gonna go all the way down to the core. And anyone who makes kimchi at home knows it's a lot of work. So I try to just waste as little as possible. Now the tender greens that are up here, I'll go ahead and just give that just one little rough chop there. The heartier parts toward the bottom, I'll just hash that a little bit more. All right. Everybody following along so far? You guys all doing well out there? All right. So now I'm just going to get in here with my hands. Just mix everything up nice and well. Give it just a little taste, make sure. Sometimes I like to add a little more of the kimchi juice to it, or add a little bit of salt or sugar, just depending on the age of the kimchi itself. That's pretty nice. Oh yeah. You get that heavy crunch from the carrots themselves, that nice spice coming from the kimchi. Oh, that's great. All right. I have not been to Korea yet. However, this is something that definitely is on the list. We had plans on going to Korea in February. And everyone kind of knows what happened around that time. So we've just been landlocked here. But definitely, I have some old coworkers that I worked with here in the States that live in Korea now. And so as soon as I can break away, most definitely, that wants to be one of my first trips there. All right, and so now I just want to glove up here. We're going to clean some of the chicken thighs. In fact, let's go back in here and check in on our oil here. No. So oil's doing really nice now. And now before you can kind of see how those peppers are giving a little bit of a give there. And that's exactly what we want. Oh yeah. So this has been like a very fun experience, especially working here at Um.Ma, where you have the chance of me and myself like being classically trained. And again, like what is classically trained? You know, I learned a few styles, trained under great chefs, you know, who are very tolerant, but also with a firm hand, and showed me really how to study and how to just hone my skills personally. And so coming here to Um.Ma gave me the opportunity to really put myself into an area where I wasn't really comfortable, but through those skills and being able to identify with different ingredients and saying things like, okay, this kind of reminds me of something that I would have eaten home or as a child, it really helped me to understand the flavors a little bit more. And thankfully having great friends around, you know, it becomes like food is almost like the unspoken language. Everyone knows what good food tastes like, you know, so it's definitely something that has been a great pleasure for me. So with my chicken thighs here, I'm just removing a little bit of the fat on there. Now that's up to preference again. Depending on how you like to fry your chicken, you can leave the skin on, all right, and you can leave those little fat pockets as well. Me personally, I kind of want to just trim that down just a little bit. So these little pieces right there, just putting your knife right under the fat there. There we go. I'm just gonna soak those into the buttermilk. My favorite kitchen utensil, I would have to say, is my knife. I feel like the standard chef's knife is something that you can do anything with. You can peel, you can slice, you can dice. Yeah, the kitchen knife definitely, and it's almost like a kind of not a rites of passage, but it's definitely one of those things that's like people kind of judge you based on the type of knives you have or how well you keep your knives, you know. So definitely a kitchen knife. All right there. So now that we have everything set, we have our dredge, we have our chicken and brine now, we have our oil already set, as well as our slaw here. Now we're gonna start actually building the chicken sandwich. I have liked spicy food all of my life. Whether they're like being young, eating like the hot Cheetos or eating Takis and things like that. Like the spicy ramen noodles, getting those when I was younger. Uh, there was like this little candy. It was like a mango lollipop that was dipped in the chili sauce. Oh, I just go crazy over it. Even to this day, just going over to the farmers markets, and most of the times when people are just like, I wouldn't eat that by itself. I'm the one who's just like seeing how much of the pepper I can tolerate. So I have loved spicy food. Like, in fact, I feel like I could do like the competition eating shows and probably get by. All right, so I have my oil set here off to the side, 325. And I have my little griddle, my home plancha here already set. This is also going to be at 350 just to toast my buns here. Feel free. All right. All right. So now in this little dredge mix here, I'm going to show you guys a few little tricks. Now that we have all the flour and everything mixed, these have been sitting here. Now, of course, this is the magic of Zoom. I would prefer to let this marinate there and really brine for up to 4 hours. So this is something that you can either do like a few hours ahead of time or even do them overnight, perfectly fine. But what I like to do is take a little bit of this brine here, and you're going to drizzle it inside of the flour. Now, what that's going to do is it's going to continue to season the flour here, but the cornstarch is going to start picking it up, and you're going to get little pebbles, kind of like that on the inside. And those little pebbles are actually going to stick to the outside of the fried chicken, and that's how you get that nice little wavy texture in there.
How can you fry the chicken if you don't have a deep fryer?
You can use, if you don't have a deep fryer at home, feel free to use like a crock pot. That will definitely get your fryer oil up hot enough. You can use a Dutch oven if you don't have one, or feel free to also use just a stovetop pot. You can get what's called a candy thermometer, and that will take your kind of gauges between 150 and 500 degrees Celsius. I'm sorry, or Fahrenheit, and that will be the easiest way. You can fry in pretty much anything as long as you can control your temperature. All right, so now that I have everything worked out there, here we go. Just gonna let that drain off just a little bit. Lay that in. You don't want to keep one wet hand and one dry hand. So taking from the wet, drop into the dry. Cover that, and then just press it in. There you go. Definitely, shallow frying in a cast iron skillet is definitely an option. Again, pressing that flour into the brine there. Just check if you have any empty spots there. Feel free just to fill that in with a little more flour. And feel free now, this is a technique that you can use for party wings. You can use this for anything that you really want to fry. If you wanted to do, say, like a chicken fried steak or like a pork cutlet or anything, this method right here, golden for all your frying needs. Perfect. All right. Just going to walk these over to the fryer here. Just drop them in one at a time. You want to make certain that you're not overcrowding your pans. So I'm just going to go ahead and do 4 of these.
What part of the chicken did you use for the brine to make the brine?
For the brine itself, the brine is just going to be the buttermilk and the hot sauce. But what we're brining for inside, we're using the chicken thighs on the inside. Boneless, skinless chicken thighs. All right. Just want to do a little bit of cleanup here, and then we'll go into the assembly next. For the oil, I like to deep fry starting out at 325 degrees Fahrenheit. And then about 5 to 6 minutes in, I like to check it up to 350 degrees, just so you get that nice crunch on the outside of it. Low and slow in the beginning, and then turn it up towards the end. On the griddle, just going to take a little bit of this oil here. You can feel free to use clarified butter, regular butter. Just going to use the oil here, just so you get that nice flavor in the bun as well. Everything is going to be chili based. There you go. Let those toast up nice. And so now that we have the chili oil completed, I'm going to pour this chili oil here into the pot. And as soon as our fried chicken is ready, we're going to actually submerge the fried chicken into this chili oil here. Check on these guys over here. You can see there. Now starting off with a 325 degree, that's going to set the flour on the outside there without it browning too fast. See how our buns are doing? Buns are starting to toast up. Perfect. We got our station back all straightened out and everything. All right. Pardon? The temperature on the griddle, I have the temperature on the griddle here set to 350 degrees. Now, if you don't have a griddle at home, you can use a saute pan with a little bit of butter. You can use your toaster oven. You can use your tabletop toaster. You can do anything you want to just to get that nice, just a nice toast on it. I just personally don't like to eat just raw bread just right out of the package. I am using brioche buns. Yeah, definitely brioche buns. I just like the texture of them. Used potato buns in the past. I've tried those out. There is a milk bread that I've used before, but here, brioche. And as you see here, the chicken thighs themselves, as they start to rise, that's one of the main indicators that they're getting close to being finished, especially in a deep fryer. To be certain, you definitely want to use a thermometer on the inside, just making sure that your chicken is over 140 degrees. All right, so our buns are nice and toasted now. You see that, how it's starting to brown on the outside? I'm going to leave this one down just a little bit more. This one as well. Perfect. Those are perfect right there. So in our assembly, just going to add a good amount of mayonnaise on the top of the bun here. We'll do the same for our bottom buns. I'm going to take some of the slaw here. I'm going to put the slaw on the bottom bun. Oh man, this is coming together nicely already.
When heating the oil, is it better to start higher to cool when you add the chicken and cook it, or no, you still try to keep it dry?
That's a great question. I prefer just to do it from the 325 and just raise it, I'm sorry, at the 350 and then raise it up to the 375. So that still adds in that little drop in temperature. So it goes from the 350 down to about 330. And then the temperature boosts the chicken back up while turning it up. Sorry, 325 to 350. Yes. All right. I'm going to take these little pickles here. make a little clover on the top there, just so every bite gets a little bit of that pickle there.
Someone is asking if someone's using an air fryer, what would you use this recipe instead of using?
Instead with the air fryer, in fact, I'm not too familiar with the air fryer, so that's a solid question. But normally, what I understand about the air fryers is that they're more towards the frying, or not, sorry, more towards the baking side of things. So I wouldn't use the pat down method with the flour, and I would probably leave out the potato starch as well, just because you don't want that to get too crunchy or start to brown so much. So now we have our chicken here. You can see how the pieces are starting to float. I'm going to take those guys right now. Nice and golden. From there, I drop those directly into the oil. All right. Just gonna let those drip down a little bit. That one goes on top of there. This one goes on top. And like I said before, I'm the one who likes it spicy. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that jalapeno right there on the top. And there you have it. Yes.
When you do have more time, how long do you think to fry the chicken if you had more time?
If I had more time, I would prefer to brine it anywhere from 4 to 10 hours. Yeah. So anywhere within that realm, a minimum of 4 hours if I had the proper amount of time. Let's see here. Oh my goodness. Yes. Insanely juicy. And that jalapeno. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me for this show. Okay. If anyone has questions, please feel free to, if anyone has questions for the next few minutes, please go ahead and let me know. I'd be more than willing to answer any of those questions while I have you here.
How long will the slaw last in the refrigerator?
The slaw with the kimchi, I would let that last maybe about 3 days max. With the purple cabbage, what you'll see is that purple starts to kind of leach out into the rest of the kimchi, and then it starts to ferment as well. So I would give that a maximum of 3 days. But it's definitely great to be used as a banchan, just as a small little salad to accompany anything else. I like to personally wilt this down in the morning and just put it over eggs. It's great all the way around. Let's save this one for later. Mm-hmm.
Someone wants you to send it to Toronto.
Oh, ship them to Toronto. I would love to. Mhm.
Oh, some of it, what did you put on the bun before adding the pickles?
The mayo. So it was just a mayonnaise spread before the pickles. Uh, Nothing mixed inside. I like to use Kewpie mayo just to add that sweeter element to the sandwich itself. Mhm. Yes, absolutely. So thank you guys so much for the opportunity to show you how to make one of our signature sandwiches here at Um.Ma. Again, feel free to follow me on Facebook or Instagram. It's at Edwin Bayone. Very simple, just my first name and last name. On there, you'll get to follow me and kind of see my journey throughout the culinary scene, as well as I post different recipes every now and then for you. So thank you again, and happy Chuseok.
Thank you, Edwin, for sharing that amazingly delicious recipe for KFC Korean fried chicken. For those of you who want to try Um.Ma at home, visit ummasf.com. That's UMMASF.com. Or find Um.Ma on Grubhub, DoorDash, and Uber Eats. A reminder that the list of ingredients can be found in the Zoom chat box. And thank you to all of you for joining us today. If you enjoyed the programming and would like to make a donation to support the festival and KCI's work in the community, every dollar makes a difference. You can click on the link to donate inside the chat box. We also hope that you'll check out the rest of the festival offerings over the next 11 days. Information is available at our website, which will appear on your screen at the end. Also, while you're on our site, please check out the curated selection of unique products from a celebrated textile artist in Korea, plus a kids box of Korean craft activities and culture items. Thank you again for joining us, and happy Chuseok.